Good, guys. Okay. So, okay. Mm. Yep. Hello, can you guys hear me? Because I myself just bought this headphone, so I'm trying to like trying to set it up. I hope that you guys can hear me clearer because this is a new headphone. Okay, can I just like repeat balik because just now I didn't like record. Sorry guys. Okay. So basically again, just a quick review. Basically from the understanding phase, the understanding of the business phase, we will basically go to the client side or client in the office and discuss with the client on the internal controls. And from this we will have a basic understanding of whether do we expect at this stage that the internal controls will be operating effectively or not. So if yes, there is an expectation that internal controls are operating effectively, then we will have to undergo a test of control. If from the start point we have already assessed when we are obtaining an understanding of the business, and we already expect that the internal controls do not operate effectively, then we will report to those charged with governance and do a full substantive procedure. So again, if basically we actually do the TOC and it's confirmed that the internal controls are operating effectively here, then we will do a reduced substantive procedure. Okay. As compared to if basically kat sini kan, we expect that the internal control are operating effectively, but they are actually not. Then basically kat sini it will be a internal control is let's say we have concluded that internal control is weak, then basically we will report to those charged with governance and do a full substantive procedure. Yeah. You guys think like my suara macam tenggelam ke? Because like somebody like ada cakap macam tu. Okay, what about now guys?
I think it's a bit better. Like a little bit tenggelam eh. I don't know. Should I just start talking louder? I don't really know. Okay, sama je. Okay now, is it better? Alright, okay. Oh, jangan guys, I just bought this headphones. I don't want to like tukar again. Okay, so I'll just try to talk louder. In sekarang clear? Okay, thank you guys for the cooperation. Okay, sambung. So basically, another thing is I want to kind of like basically give an example for you guys to really see what is the difference between TOC and SP first. Because if you guys don't have a clear understanding, okay, right now we know the textbook definition, right? We know that the definition of a TOC is to ensure that the internal controls are operating effectively, and we know that a substantive procedure is more or less to substantiate each transaction within the financial statements. So I want to show you guys an example to really confirm you guys with your understanding on this, because if not, you will not know how to differentiate between answering your SP and your TOC. Okay, so let me just get to that. Okay, so this is just an example from my class. Okay, so basically the purpose of the test of control is again for us to confirm the operating effectiveness of internal control, and substantive procedure is for us to substantiate transaction in the financial statements by agreeing to the source document. Okay, so this is an example here. I think I've already like looked through this the other day, but I think I just want to confirm the understanding first. Okay, so this is an example here where basically this accountant will actually look into the cash book, and then dia akan compare with the amount from the bank statement. Okay, so basically the accountant will reconcile this amount from the cash book and the bank statement in a bank reconciliation. Okay, so this act of actually performing this bank reconciliation, okay, there are the two different kinds of procedures here, two different things here. Okay, so let's say right now, if you look at this balance as per bank statement, right now, if I am doing a test of control, basically what I would do is I would check this signature here, whether it has been signed and reviewed by a financial manager. So this is an example of test of control. Okay, so basically the control here is that they are actually signing this bank recon. So us, as a test of control, the auditor will basically check whether have they actually done this or not, as compared to if we are actually performing a substantive procedure, we are basically looking into and confirming each one of these figures within this bank recon. For example, we will look into this whether is it accurately, is this 50, this amount of 50, is it accurate by comparing it to the actual bank statement. And then for the reconciling items here, okay, for the uncredited lodgement. Okay, what is an uncredited lodgement, guys? Can you guys share in the chat what is an uncredited lodgement? Can anyone share what is an uncredited lodgement? Basically, an uncredited lodgement is, for example, macam the payment was made, uh, the payment was made before the year end. Okay, the payment was made before the year end, the money was banked in before the year end. However, it is only received after the year end. Okay, can you guys just give me a second? Sorry, macam my house is like so chaotic, so I macam cannot focus. Sekejap. Okay. Sorry guys. So like macam my brother is not feeling too well, so he's like literally screaming. So macam it's kind of hard to hear my thoughts lah. Macam tu. Okay. So basically going back to my point just now, if uncredited lodgement again, we want to substantiate this 10K amount maybe. Okay. So what will we look at is basically we will look into the pay in deposit slip. Okay. The purpose is we want to confirm the date when this check or this payment was actually lodged in the bank. Okay. We want to confirm the date. Okay. Basically to ensure that is it betul ke this is an uncredited lodgement which is due to a timing difference, or is it actually an error that has been made in their bank, in their recording. Okay guys, so basically that's more or less the difference between a substantive procedure and a TOC. Okay, so let's go into the exam technique. Okay, so this is for internal control. It will usually take up 15 to 20%. So for me, I feel like internal control needs something that if you want to, it's a bit hard to detect the deficiencies or the good control from the scenario if you do not have experience, number one, or if you do not have a clear understanding of the different kinds of system. Okay, so you in your AA syllabus, these are the cycles that will be covered. Okay, so NCAA is not very important. I wouldn't say not very important, but it's very unlikely to be tested because it's not that complicated as compared to these 5 other cycles. So I would say sales, purchases, and inventory is under one section. Payroll and cash and bank is under a different section. So I have already uploaded the videos on these cycles on the Timber Flags. So you guys can actually look into the videos if you guys want to obtain an increased understanding on what are the cycles actually like. Because I'm not really going to go into depth in this class, okay, on how the systems work. But okay, can I just show you guys like for a little bit the videos, because there's like a few I record. So I want to just show you guys like this is a recording for my class before this lah. Okay, so okay, so there's a few videos here. Okay, so chapter 10 on test of control this video recording is basically all of the different internal control systems. Okay, I've kind of explained a little bit on sales, purchases, and all the control systems. Okay, tapi I would say that if you want to look into this video, yang AA chapter 10 test of control it is if you can get a little bit of everything. Okay, but basically these 3 videos are shorter videos that I explain specifically on the bank and cash, on the payroll, and the NCA. NCA is very short, there's nothing much. Bank and cash I did not explain that thoroughly in the chapter 10. So I would say that it's good for you guys to, maybe if you guys really don't have time, just look into this video yang AA chapter 10 test of control and the bank and cash system. Okay guys? So this is something that you guys can look into separately if you guys have the time. Okay. So basically today I'm going to cover more on how are we going to answer this in our exam. Okay, so basically there are 2 different types of internal control questions, basically focusing more on the deficiencies and the recommendations. Or another thing that they can ask you is to explain the deficiency, like this, the recommended control, and the test of control. But I feel like in current year, they don't ask you for all 3 of this at the same time. It's usually like deficiencies and recommendations, or maybe key control and test of control. Okay, so this is how they might actually test you within the exams, basically. So at the core of it, I want you guys to understand in the most simplest term, okay, when we talk about deficiency, okay, I want you guys to write this negative, okay? Basically, it is when we talk about deficiency, we want to talk about what the company is not doing, or if they ask for a key control, or basically control strength or direct control, this is what the company is doing correct, what the company is doing that is good, okay? Recommended control is basically referring to the deficiency, okay? So just now we were talking about what the company is not doing when we are explaining the deficiency. Recommended control is basically we ask them to do it, and test of control is the auditors verifying did they do it already or not. So do you guys notice that is there's a pattern here? Okay, this recommended control will relate to your deficiency. This test of control will relate to this. Okay, so you guys see this pattern, because sometimes another thing that students commonly mistake on is because you've done a lot of practice. Okay? You've done a lot of practice in this case. So sometimes your recommended control here might be correct, but it may not relate to the deficiency you're talking about. Do you understand? Similarly, the test of control here, you are not basically testing, you're not testing the control that we are talking about. Okay? It has to be related. Basically, at the end of the day, we have to apply it to the scenario. Okay? So this is something we're going to look into after this. Okay? So when we are explaining the deficiency, this is very important to note. Okay? So first, we will talk about what is the deficiency from the scenario. Okay? If you guys really tak tahu pun how to explain, please just copy paste from the scenario. Paling-paling lah. If you guys really don't have the time, at least copy paste from the scenario. Do not just leave this as a blank. Okay? So another two things that I want you guys to kind of like, the way you guys should present your answer should be, okay, so deficiency here, and then we will have the direct implication. So this is very important. Okay, the direct implication is where you will apply from the scenario. Okay, we will apply directly from the scenario, and general implication is basically going to be something yang very common that is repeated now. Okay, so these are some examples. Okay, kalau when we talk about a deficiency, okay, maybe this can lead to a loss of employee or customer goodwill. Okay, maybe if I give an example, okay, when we are talking about efficiency on payroll, let's say, okay, maybe if okay, or let's say like we do not have a separate payroll and HR department. We basically have only one department. Okay, so according to best practices, we should have a separate payroll and HR department. This is to ensure segregation of duties. Okay, let's say if we only have one department that handles the payroll and handles employees, basically they will be setting up these employees and also paying out their funds, right? So dekat situ, we can say that there is an increased risk of fraud, maybe. So this is how I want to use this example here. Okay, increased risk of fraud. Okay, maybe this could lead to an over or understatement or over or underpayment of wages. Okay, so this is the general implication. So we're going to see more examples later on. Okay, so kalau key controls, okay, it's basically just the wording that is a bit different. Okay, it's just the wording that's a bit different when we are talking about deficiency and key control. Deficiency, basically, we will maybe say there is a risk of. Okay, there is a risk of. When we are talking about key control, this will reduce the risk of what? Or this will prevent what? Okay, so next is basically on the recommended control. Okay, so far so good, guys. Okay, so it's okay. Later we're going to go through questions to kind of see how can we apply this more specific. Okay, so for the recommended control, it's very important to be very, very, very specific. Okay, so you have to incorporate these 4 points in your answer, which is who. Okay, basically when I'm talking about who, we have to be as specific as we can. Okay, when we talk about specific, I want to talk about the which department. Okay, which department is in charge of this, and basically which personnel. So is it the supervisor? Is it the manager? So if this is already included within the scenario, you have to be specific, especially macam for example here, sales manager or the financial controller or the financial manager. Okay, this sometimes is already included within your internal control question. However, if let's say you're really not sure, just put responsible official. Okay, but responsible official is a little bit risky, especially when they have already kind of hinted it in your scenario. Okay, if they have already hinted it in your scenario, you should make sure to use what they have given. Okay, and even if you want to write responsible official, you should at least state which department. Okay, which department? Responsible official from the payables department or from the payroll department. Okay, so what is the control that we want to recommend and when? Okay, for example, when will we perform a bank recon? Bank recon, we will perform it on a monthly basis. Okay, so be as specific as you guys can. And basically, for certain controls, okay, you have to ask yourself who should be reviewing this control, and basically, we have to make sure that they are evidencing this review by way of signature. Okay, so you should have or strive to have all 4 of these points in your recommended control. Okay, so for testing of control, we will use this mnemonic of ROTI. Okay, R is basically to reperform, recalculate, or review. Observe is basically when we are observing a procedure or a process. Okay, test data is basically what we will do whenever there is any kind of like system that is being used. Okay, whenever there is a system being used, we can actually incorporate test data where we will input dummy data within the system to test whether is this system, is this payroll system or is this payable system actually moving and actually operating as it is supposed to. Okay, inspect is basically we inspect documents, inquire with any individuals. Okay, so again, the key point here is for you to ask yourself, is there any process or document that we can look into here when we are answering on test of control? Okay, so these are just some example of POC examples here. Okay, basically, we will review the document for evidence of signature and agree to approve signatories list. Okay, whenever we talk about a sequence check, okay, we want to explain why are we doing this. We are undertaking a sequence check to basically check whether there are any missing documents or to ensure completeness of your document. Okay, and then if we are re-performing reconciliation, we want to compare this with the recon performed by client and investigate any differences. Kat sini pun, if you guys can see, okay, it cannot be just you re-perform recon. It cannot go, like your answer cannot be like this sahaja. It comes as a set. Okay, you re-perform and then you will compare this with the recon performed and then we will investigate any differences. This is how your answer will be complete. Okay, so yeah, these are just some other examples. Okay, so basically today we'll try to cover with Takerco and Camomalco, and maybe we can discuss a little bit on Castle Krieko. Castle Krieko ni is focusing just on the payroll system. Okay, so basically I feel like payroll ni is something that is recently very famous in internal control. When I first time studied payroll system ni, I think that is this really necessary? Because it feels like sekarang ni is like a very, I mean, I think technology has advanced a lot. So I would say that macam, I just thought that, is it necessary for them? Do they still pay packets? You guys know what is a pay packet? Do they still pay in cash? So this is something that is very much still relevant in your AA because they actually like to tax on payroll. And for me, I feel like payroll ni is in a lot in all the other systems kan. Payroll is something that you cannot tembak or bantai. You have to kind of know how the system works. So I would advise guys, please watch my video on payroll system. Okay. Okay, guys, are you guys ready for us to go through the first question? Ready tak? Okay. So, alright. So, Iman cakap dah ready. Najwa said ready. Okay. So, in respect of the sales system, we will identify and explain. Okay. Again, always highlight what is your verb. When they ask us to explain 3 direct controls, here it is direct control. So, is this a positive or negative guys? So basically, direct control is, yeah, correct. It is a positive. Okay. So make sure to include this when you guys are reading through the questions. Okay. Make sure that you guys have included, is this a positive or negative? And then look into the verb here. So when they are asking us to explain the direct control, then identify is basically we will list by copy paste from the scenario. So this is where you will get your 0.5 marks here. 0.5 marks. When we are explaining, we want to explain. Okay, maybe we can talk about this reduces the risk of what? Basically, we want to explain what is the benefit of this control. Okay, so describe a test of control. When we talk about describe, we want to be as specific. Can you guys list down what is the 4 points just now yang I cakap that should be included? Oh tak. Basically, when we are, that is recommended control. Sorry guys. Okay, so describing a test of control, basically we want to be specific and then we want to include the purpose. Why are we actually doing this? Why are we performing this test of control? Okay. So basically, what are we trying to test and why are we doing this? Okay. Next is identify and explain 5 deficiencies. Okay. So deficiencies kat sini is basically on the negative. Okay, similarly, when we are explaining on deficiency, we want to explain why is this bad, okay? Or maybe like, what is the risk, okay? I would say, what is the risk? The risk of actually having this deficiency in the internal control. 5 deficiencies in the payroll and the bank system. And provide a control recommendation. So this is the one. Can you guys list down what is the 4 points that is needed when we are explaining our control recommendation here? Okay, so what are the 4 points? When we are providing a control recommendation, what is the tips that are needed when we are answering on control recommendation. Just go back into my model. Yeah, so first we will have who. Okay. Next is basically we are going to have what, when, and maybe this is an additional one is who will review. Who will review this control. Okay. So who will review, and then plus we have to make sure that this is evidence by science. So can I give you guys like 8 minutes, 8 minutes tops, for you guys to read through this and basically highlight yourself what are the internal control deficiencies and what are the internal control key controls here. Okay, guys. So I'll give you guys like 8 minutes just to highlight, and then let's get back to discussing after 8 minutes at 8:25. Okay, see you guys at 8:25. Okay, hi guys, it's 8:25. Have you guys managed to discover the key controls and deficiencies? Mm. Okay, so let's start. Okay, let's try to cover this together. Okay. So I hope that you guys are typing with me instead of just watching me. I feel like I know it depends on the person. Sometimes people are like okay, tengok je dulu. Okay. So I guess at the end of the day it depends on your like kind of like best way of learning. But I think that when it comes to audit, it's about practice. It's about attempting to write this down yourself. So I hope that you guys can attempt this with me together lah. Okay. So first things first, can you guys see the font or is it like too small? So I make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So let's firstly start with the key control here. Okay, so the first control here is basically the new sales system is fully tested prior to its implementation and the new and old systems run in parallel. Plus, IA performs checks on output and follow up. Okay, this is just a um, simple summary of what we have discovered from the scenario. That scenario is where you get the 0.5 marks. And then basically my way of presentation is again, I want to go into the direct implication and the general implication. So this general implication is usually something that is repetitive. And then you guys can just hafal this. You guys can just memorize this general implication here. Okay? What is most important is this direct implication. Okay, why I want you guys to present this separately here is because your answer will only be complete when you have all three of this. Okay, the general implication ni pun will actually vary. Okay, the most important is for you to have this direct implication. Okay, sometimes people will just write the general implication here, and then this will not give you any marks because you are not applying it to the scenario. Okay, this general implication is more or less just an addition. Okay, so what is the direct implication of them basically doing the implementation of the new sales system together with the old one? Okay, basically this reduces the risk that data is lost or data is not processed accurately due to the processing, due to the operation of the new system. Okay, maybe you can say that this reduces the risk that data is lost during the transfer or the implementation of the system one is okay. So the general implication here that I can see is this reduces the risk of processing errors and misstatements in the misstatements in the I can say in the sales record. Okay, kat sini I have when I say sales record, this is also very specific to the scenario because right now they are doing a sales system. Okay, so basically on the TOC, we will use row T. Okay, row. Okay, and basically we will think of what is the process or what is the document that we can talk about. Okay, so right now, when there is an internal audit department that will be running this, okay, whatever work that is done by the internal audit will be documented within an IA report, an internal audit report. So right now, that is the document that we want to obtain and review. Okay, and again, when we are describing the TOC, we want to talk about what is the purpose. Okay, what is the purpose? What are we trying to look at here? Okay, so first is maybe we can review the procedures, okay, and documentation relating to the testing to confirm relating to the testing done by IA to confirm that tests taken are appropriate and errors are fully investigated and resolved. Okay. So first of all, guys, okay. Another thing that we can do is maybe we can understand what checks are being taken. So firstly, we will review the internal audit's testing schedule to understand what checks are being undertaken and when is the expected completion of testing of the new system. And maybe we can review documents. Let's do a different point of this. Review documentation which details the test performed and follow-up actions to understand how errors have been communicated and resolved. So next is on the credit check. Okay, on the credit check. So this is actually a little bit like something we have looked into when we were actually doing audit bits, right? So it's similar. Your answer here will be similar. Why do we actually have to have a full credit check, guys? what is the objective of us actually performing this credit check to our customers? Can you guys write in the chat? What is the purpose of us performing this credit risk? About a credit check? Wouldn't it be better for our business if we just provide, like just sell to anyone out there? Wouldn't this increase our sales? So why do we actually perform this credit check? So yeah, correct, Sarah. Basically, we want to prevent doubtful debt. Okay, we want to prevent irrecoverable debts. That's why we'll actually perform this. Okay, so I see that it's not direct implication here. It's basically because right now we are explaining on the key control. Basically, we want to talk about the benefit. Okay, the benefit, the direct benefit, and the general benefit. So because this is on the key control. So instead of direct implication, we are talking about the direct benefit of this is we want to ensure that only credit-worthy customers are able to place orders. Okay, so right now, the general benefit is that we can reduce the irrecoverable debt and potential risk of loss of revenue. Okay, when the customers don't pay us, this will actually lead to a loss of revenue. So if you guys notice, this is the more general benefit, and this is the direct benefit of this control. Okay, so kat sini kan, again, when I was explaining just now, right, the test of control should relate to whatever that is here. So whenever kan, the control actually states that that is an approval. For example, here kan, the credit limit is approved by the sales director and evidence. Okay, so this is a bonus mark for you guys because basically in your test of control, we will just review again when we are actually performing a TOC. We are just verifying did the company actually do this or not. So we will inspect for evidence of approval, such as signature by who? By the sales director, be specific, before the credit limit is set. Okay? Do you guys see the correlation? How your answer here should be related to the answer here. Okay? It will not stray too far out. That is actually the benefit of internal control, in which that your answer should not go too far from what is in the scenario. Okay? So, another thing that we can basically look at is, what we can do is, the audit team can select a sample of new customer accounts, opened, and confirm that a credit check, has been performed by reference to information on the system. That a credit check has been performed prior to accepting customer by reference to information on the system. Okay, we want to basically confirm, is it true that they actually did this credit check before they actually accepted the customers? Okay, so next, the receivable ledger clerk performs a monthly review of each receivables listing and identifies those aged more than 30 days and follow up on credit control department. So this is more and less similar to the previous point, right? Okay, so can somebody try out with the direct benefit? Okay, it's a little bit different from our point in our previous point, but it's like the same concept here. Okay, it's quite similar. Can somebody just shoot your shot and try what is the direct benefit that we can talk about here? And what is the general benefit? Can anyone try what is the direct benefit? What is the benefit of us performing this monthly review of each receivable listing? Okay, what is the purpose we actually review this age receivable listing? It is for us to chase outstanding debt, correct? So the benefit of actually doing this is, this will ensure that debts are collected on a timely basis. Okay, go back to what is the purpose of we actually doing this control. Okay, that's how we can explain this benefit. We want to talk about why do we actually do this control in the first place? What is the purpose of this control? Okay, the general benefit will be the same thing now. This reduces the risk of irrecoverable debts and to avoid potential risk of loss of revenue. So you guys see, the general benefit may be the same, but the direct benefit of this control will usually differ according to the scenario here. Okay, so that's why I would say that the direct benefit is actually very, very important. Okay, if you guys omit on the direct benefit here, you guys will not be able to get that 0.5 marks extra. Okay, so basically, how can we apply to when we're doing this TOC? How can we apply to the scenario? Okay, what are we going to look into right now? What document are we going to look into? Can you guys share in the chat? list what receivable, age, listing. Okay, correct Sarah, correct Alia. So basically it's the same thing, right? We are just using whatever that is in the scenario here. We are not trying to brainstorm so much outside. Okay, actually the answer is there in front of you. It's just how can you apply this? Okay, so we will obtain the age receivables report and confirm that there is a evidence of review by the receivable ledger clerk. Okay? Evidence of review by way of signature by the receivable ledger clerk. Okay. So again, whenever in the control states that there is somebody reviewing this, okay, what we will do is we will just confirm whether they have actually reviewed this or not. So we will look into this evidence of signature. Okay. Another thing that we can do is review a sample of, kat sini kan they have stated that they will follow up. There will be a follow up by credit control department on age receivable balances that are more than 30 days. So let's talk about the identification of those aged more than 30 days. So we will inquire which receivables balances are passed to the credit control department and confirm that this is appropriate based on Whittaker Co's credit control policy. Okay, so usually every company will have their own credit control policy. Maybe like after 30 days, they will start chasing the customer. So we want to compare, are they actually following this policy or not? Okay, this 30-day policy. Another thing is on the follow-up. Okay, right now we want to review a sample of follow-up documents from the credit control to confirm action has been taken by the credit control, by the credit controller. Okay. So the last point here is the accounting clerk perform monthly receivable ledger control account recon, and this recon is reviewed and approved by financial controller. Okay, so basically kan, the purpose of any recon lah, let's say any reconciliation here, the purpose is basically for us to identify errors. Okay, the reason why we perform any kind of recon is for us to actually identify errors. Okay, even if it is a bank recon or payables recon, we want to identify whether there are any errors. So when we are talking about the direct benefit, this benefit that they are actually performing this recon is basically regular reconciliation will basically help to ensure that errors within the receivable balances are identified and resolved on a timely basis. Okay, so this is a signature answer. Okay, this is a signature answer for any type of recon. The purpose is basically for us to ensure that errors are identified and resolved on a timely basis. So the general benefit here will be that this ensures that the receivables balances presented in the financial statements are accurate. Okay, so okay, right now kan, if you guys just look in this sentence here kan, what test of control can you guys recommend? Okay, what will be reviewed? What document will be reviewed right now? Basically kan, it's the same thing, right? You guys should be a pro at this already. We will just review right now kan. We are explaining how the control is that the accounting clerk perform the monthly receivable ledger control account recon. So we will basically, we will review the receivable ledger control account, okay, or recon. Review the file of receivable control recon and confirm that these are being performed on a monthly basis. So this is one point here already. Okay. Another thing that we can talk about is the evidence of review. Okay, we want to review the recon. Actually, they have stated that it has been approved by the financial controller. So right now we want to check. Okay, review the recon for evidence of signature which indicates or evidence of approval by way of signature by the financial controller. Okay, another thing is on the reconciling items. I think I didn't include this here, but basically for the reconciling items, we can actually trace to the supporting documents. For a sample of recon with reconciling items, trace to supporting documents to confirm that errors have been corrected. Okay, so this is basically a little bit of how you guys can answer on your key controls. Okay, so far so good guys. Before we go into the deficiency, actually the deficiency and key control ni is the same points. So it's just how you guys answer it is a bit like terbalik. Okay, so for example here kan, if let's say it is a deficiency instead. Maybe the deficiency is that they do not perform this reconciliation. They don't perform this reconciliation. So when we are talking about the direct implication, okay, of this deficiency, what we can say is, okay, let's say if this is a deficiency, can talk about the direct implication, will be if the recon is not performed, there is a risk that it's just the same thing terbalik je. There is a risk that errors within receivables are not identified and resolved on a timely basis. Okay, so it's just the same point. It's just that the way I'm answering it is a bit different, right? Okay, so moving on to the deficiency. Okay, so on the recommended control, again, we want to touch on who, what, when, who, what, when, and who will review. Okay, so wait, before I go into this, do you guys have any controls on the key controls? So far, so good? Will we move on to deficiency? Is everyone okay? So, okay, sekarang ni kita just warming up. Okay, warming up means that I will show you guys how to answer. But after this, I want you guys to attempt on the target. Okay? Because right now, I rasa you guys are still warming up, so I'm giving you guys the chance to just enjoy the class and just follow what I'm doing. But I want you guys to attempt juga after this. Okay? So, let's start with the deficiency. Okay, so the first issue here, the first control deficiency here is that the joiner forms are not completed and then they are added to payroll following an email from the production supervisor. Okay, so this is basically the job of the, this is actually a job by the payroll. The payroll is the one who is setting up the joiner form. Okay, it actually is not the duty of the production supervisor. So let's talk about the direct implication. Direct implication. Okay, and the general implication. The direct implication of this joiner forms not being completed right now is that, okay, it may not include the joiner forms may not include all relevant data details on the may not include all relevant details on the email to payroll. This is not on the joiner form, sorry. Basically, there may not include all relevant details on the email to the payroll. This is basically the email from the production supervisor. Okay, production supervisor's email may not include all relevant details. I think this macam a bit confusing. Okay, production supervisor's email may not include all relevant details on the joiner. Okay, basically, whenever a new joiner is entering the company, then they have to fill out a certain form. Okay, payroll will basically update this into the payroll system. However, if this form is not done, and then the production supervisor is just updating the details through this email, okay, basically it may not be updated correctly by the payroll department. Okay, so this could result in these temporary employees not receiving the correct amount of pay, or not being paid on time. So the general implication of this is there might be a loss of employee goodwill. Okay, so this general implication, you'll notice that it is repetitive. Okay, so right now, if I do not talk about this implication here and I just jump to the fact that there is a loss of employee goodwill, you're not explaining lah. Okay, there's a jump there. Okay, that's why it's very important for you to include the direct implication like this. Okay, so right now, joiner forms are not being completed. Okay, when we recommend a control, again, basically we are just asking them to do it and basically telling them what not to do. Okay, so this is basically a simplified explanation of how we are going to do a recommended control. Okay, so basically, when they check out joiner form is not completed, this is the deficiency. Right now, I'm just telling them complete the joiner form. Okay, it's simple, right, guys? Basically, a joiner form should be completed for all new employees, whether temporary or permanent. Okay, and then the authorized joiner form should be sent to the payroll on the day the employee commences. And basically, the payroll department is the one who is going to update this joiner form, this new joiner, into the payroll system. So the payroll will sign the form, should basically update the new joiners in the payroll system and sign the form as evidence of update. Okay, this is okay. So Sarah tanya on HR. So this particularly is the job of payroll, because this is on when this new joiner come into the company, kan, basically it is the payroll who will update their details within the payroll system. Okay, they are the one who is going to update any additions, any new employees, and any people who have left the company. The payroll will update within the system to ensure that their payroll is being paid like properly. Okay, so yeah, this is a little bit confusing here. What is the duty? What is the responsibilities of a payroll and of HR? Okay, hold on. Maybe I can like a little bit like briefly go into this. Let me put my notes. Okay, let me share my screen with me. Okay. So this is my notes on the payroll system. Okay, so maybe I'll just another thing that I can do is upload this note for your reference. Okay, for the payroll, okay, we basically should have two separate functions. This is to ensure that there is a proper segregation of duties between the HR and the payroll department. Okay, so HR, they are the ones who will be hiring the staff. They are the ones who are interviewing the new joiners here. However, the one who is setting them, the new joiners and the leavers in the payroll system, will be the payroll department. Okay, so HR will be in charge of the hiring and determination of staff. Basically, the training, the setting, and reviewing of KPI. However, on the salary and wages part, will always be the payroll. So, whenever there is a new joiner within the company, right? Whenever there is a new joiner within the company, this will be updated within their master data file and the payroll punya file. Okay, so this is basically done by the payroll. Okay, I think that we will basically have two different sets of records now. HR pun will basically have like some sort of master data file on employee details. So this is more or less of just the employee details. Okay. However, in the payroll system, then this will usually be set up by the payroll. So moving back to the question. Okay, moving back to the question. Basically, we want to ensure that and right now, just now I was saying how recommended control, we are asking them to do it, and then we are telling them what not to do. Basically, right now, when we tell them what not to do, is the payroll should not set up new employees without an authorized joiner form. Okay? So that's pretty much it. We are basically asking them to complete the joiner form, and then they should not set up new employees without an authorized form. Okay? So next is on the staff paid overtime on a monthly basis, but overtime work reports are only reviewed every quarter after the overtime has been paid. It's only being reviewed after the overtime has been paid. So what is the direct implication or risk of this here? Can you guys tell me what is the direct implication here? In simple layman words, please. Basically, the direct implication is what? This could result in employees being paid for hours that are not worked. Okay, and so the general implication will be there may be an overpayment of payroll. There are two instances here. An overpayment of payroll, which could lead to an increase in wages and salaries expenses by the company, or an underpayment of payroll, where basically there will be a loss of employee goodwill. Okay, so there are two circumstances here. I think you guys can do the one point okay. Alright, so basically the issue here is that they are not reviewing it. Okay, they are only reviewing it every quarter. So right now, we want them to review it before the overtime is being paid. Okay, because right now, the production supervisor should review and authorize overtime work reports before they are passed to payroll for processing. This is basically to ensure that correct level of overtime are paid to the correct employees. Or another thing that you guys can say, if you want to just use the same tendency pun boleh juga. We can say that this is to ensure that overtime is being paid for hours worked only. Another thing is we want to tell them what they should not do. Okay, the payroll department should be instructed not to process any overtime work reports which have not been reviewed and authorized. Okay? So for the next 5 points here, can we can you guys try to attempt yourself for the direct implication? Make sure that you guys have the direct implication and the general implication. So at this stage, maybe let's just focus more on the explanation of the internal control. So I want to see how you guys can explain your internal control deficiency in this method of presentation where you will explain on the direct implication and the general implication. So if you guys are not so sure on how to answer the general implication, you guys can actually refer to my module juga. Okay. So can I give you guys some time for you guys to do the explanation for these 5 internal control deficiency? So right now is 8:58. Let's just say it's already 9. Can we discuss this in how many minutes should I be giving? Okay, so let's follow the rule of 1.8 minutes per mark. So right now, guys, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 marks, right? So basically, this should be 9 minutes here, but I don't know if that is enough for you guys. Okay, maybe I'll give you guys 15 minutes. Okay, is that alright? So basically, we will discuss this at 9:15. Please submit your answers to the Padlet. Okay, guys? So I will see you guys at 9:15 with your answers so we can mark and look through on the exam pack notices. Okay, see you guys at 9:15. Guys, your time is up. Please submit your answers in the chat. I already put in the link in the chat box. You just put down in the packet and then you can. Submit your answers, guys. And everyone else, is everyone else complete? Okay. So on the wages and deduction calculated are automatically performed, but no checks are being carried out. This could result in employees and underpaid. And then the general indication to underpayment behavior. It actually that is a repetition. Okay. So you're basically repeated the same thing from the direct and the general indication. You know? Yeah. Hello? Hello? Can you guys hear me clearer now? Not. Okay. Right. Thank you for informing me before I proceed. Okay. Basically, okay, so wages and right now.
Miss macam lagging, Miss. Kurang dengar.
Is it sebab internet ke sebab headphone?
Sekarang baru okay. I think headphone good.
Okay.
Ha.
Dah. I tak tahu. So right now okay ke?
Okay, clear.
Okay, clear. If tak clear, just inform me now. Because this is like a new headphone now, so I don't know. Okay. So, alright, I try to talk as clear as I can. Okay, close as I can to the headphone. Okay, guys. Alright. So, okay. So again, dekat sini kan, when you guys don't like break it down between the direct implication and the general implication, this is what you guys are going to do. You guys are just going to state that the employees are being underpaid. There is a risk that the employees are being underpaid. Okay, so here basically you have lost that 0.5 marks because you are not basically giving the direct implication. You're not giving the direct implication of this efficiency. Yeah, so nanti I'm going to show you guys what is the direct implication that we're talking about. So dekat sini, you will not get a mark for the explanation here. Okay, because basically there is a gap here. You not directly explain the gap. Okay, next is HR manager inside on the border. Okay, HR manager may be giving different amounts to different employees, and this can lead to a lot of people. Okay, so this is okay. This is good because this is directly explaining the control. So I can give this one mark here. Okay, the bonus was input into the system, and the number of employees subsequently notified the payroll department of errors in their pay. Okay, that's not good then. Now, lastly is reconciling items in the bank recon may not be balanced. High risk of material repayment. Okay, basically, this goes back to why do we actually perform a bank recon? Okay, similarly, like I stated just now, any recon that we do is basically for us to identify and resolve any errors on a timely basis. Okay, so we can actually bring this in this context to talk about if the reconciling items are not used, maybe the errors are not detected and resolved on a timely basis. So this will reduce the effectiveness of the bank records. Okay, so recon items in the bank may not be balancing, it's not very relevant, so I cannot give you mark you, but this is a good attempt. Thank you for actually attempting mine. So for all of you guys yang lain, I will basically like maybe this is like baru the first question, so you guys are possibly a little bit still unclear. So I'll show you guys how we are going to do this. Wages and deduction calculations are automatically performed, but no checks are carried out. So whenever there is a system, okay, right now they already have a system to automatically calculate this. Okay. So, however, when there are no checks being performed, okay, there may be errors within the system. So the direct implication here is that basically there may be system errors within the payroll payroll system. During the wages and system errors may occur during the payroll processing, which has not been identified as no checks are carried out. Okay, so this is the direct implication. Only then you can actually state that the wages may be over calculated. Okay, so if we talk about wages may be over calculated, this will be additional payroll costs in the company. Or if the wages are under calculated, this could lead to a loss of employee goodwill. Okay, so basically this is how you guys will have to answer. If you guys don't have this breaking apart of the direct implication and general implication, it is where you guys may get confused. Okay, because people will usually talk a lot more on the general implication here. Okay, and then you miss out on the direct implication. That is when you lose your marks. Okay, so what can we do right now? Okay, basically we have to ask them to do the check. Okay, right now we are just asking them, please do the check. Okay, so who? Okay, remember we have to be as specific as we can. We want to talk about who, what, and when, and who will review. Okay, so if I am including this in my answer, okay, you want to be as specific as you can. The senior member of the payroll team. Okay, so let's say if you don't know who specifically should be doing this, if you check out senior member or a responsible official within the payroll department, it is okay. Okay, a senior member of the payroll department should recalculate the gross to net pay working and compare their results to the output of the payroll system. So any discrepancies or differences should be investigated. Okay, so sekarang ni we have covered firstly on the who. Okay, we have basically started on the who. We have talked about what. When in this case, we cannot talk about when. Okay, because this case here we cannot talk about when. Okay, so the other thing that we can talk about is number 4 is who will review. Okay, so basically these calculations should be signed as approved before payments are being made. Should be signed by a responsible official as approved before payments are being made. Okay, so I want to explain on the bonus for a little bit. Okay, because when we talk about bonus is something that's pretty famous. The bonus is a pretty famous question that they like questioning you on. So I want you guys to be clear on the bonus in the process. Okay, so how does it work? Right? Just now in that case, it's not it is stage R. This is just a general overview. Okay, so right now, who do you guys think will set the bonus? Who should be setting the bonus? Can you guys write in the chat? So, Najwa says production manager, Farhad says board members, and Ashkin says director. So we have a variety of answers right now, right, guys? So let's see who is correct here. Okay. So basically, when we are starting with a bonus, there is a process. So the people who will be initially setting the bonus is the board of directors. Okay. So Farhad is correct. Basically, this will be set by the board of directors. Okay. Basically, the board of directors, the key point here is they will set the threshold. Okay? They will set the threshold or the range. Threshold and the range for any bonus or increments for bonuses. Okay, so for example, like maybe if let's say if you are a supervisor, example, supervisor, maybe your bonus will be 5K to 8K. So let's say you are a manager, maybe your pay is like 6K to 9K. So this threshold or this range is basically set by the board of directors. Okay, so it's important for us to know this first level here. Okay, but it doesn't stop there. Okay, so they are the ones who are providing the threshold. Okay, right now we can actually look into this within the. This is basically documented where can we actually confirm this threshold or this range of bonus. Okay, basically whatever that is discussed by the board of directors, what document can we actually look to confirm this? We can look into the board minute meeting. Yes, you're correct, Farha. We can look into the board minute meetings for this. Okay, so moving on from here, guys. Okay, so basically the board of directors will set the threshold, and then we will basically have at the bottom here, we will have the basically each head of the department, we will basically have these directors, this head of department. So for example, we have, I think in our scenario, it is an HR director. Maybe we have a sales director. Okay, so the question kan, in your exam questions, they may actually switch around here. They just rotate je tau kan. They will rotate. Maybe in this exam, they ask kalau HR punya bonus, who is setting the HR punya bonus? Maybe for sales, in the sales department, who is setting the bonus here? Okay, so basically they just have different heads lah. Maybe IT, and then we have production. We have production, okay, production director. Okay, and then we maybe have purchasing department, or purchasing director. Okay. So basically these are just the different kinds of departments. Okay, so basically all these directors are the ones who will basically who will determine. Basically they are the ones who will be this director. Director will be the one to decide on approved bonuses. Approved bonus for employee based on the threshold that is set by the board of directors. Okay? It's not like these directors, they will just plug any people right now. They will basically look into whether is this employee qualified or not to actually receive this bonus, and then they will actually set the bonus based on this threshold that has been set by the board of directors. So they will be the ones who are deciding on approved bonus for employees based on the threshold. Okay, and then once they have decided, this will be informed to the payroll department, because the payroll department will basically update this in their system and pay out this bonus. Okay, so this has to be confirmed in writing to the payroll department. So confirmation here, confirmation in writing through this document. Okay, they will basically send this list. So this will be a list of approved bonuses. Okay, they will submit this list of approved bonuses to the payroll department, whereby the payroll department will basically update this within their system. Okay, and then for the payment of the payroll right now, the payment of the bonuses, this payroll department will basically pay out. Only then will they pay out the bonus. Okay? Because it has already been approved here. Yes. So, back to our question just now. Back to our questioning. The issue at hand right now is that the HR manager decide on the bonus and confirm the bonus to the payroll department. So they did not basically state that they are actually setting this payroll based on the threshold from the board of directors. So that is the main issue here. Okay? So right now let's talk about the direct implication. Basically, the direct implication is that there are no approved parameters or no approved threshold for the bonus level. So it is purely based on the discretion of the HR manager. So, like Iman said just now, basically, the HR manager could pay bonuses inappropriately to the employees. Okay, maybe they may pay more to those young they favor, and maybe they may pay less to those young the HR manager dislikes, maybe. Okay, so this could actually lead to, if let's say there's an overpayment of bonus, this could lead to extra or additional payroll costs. However, if there is an underpayment of bonus, this could lead to a loss of employee goodwill. So I think for the general implication, if either one put okay, if you want to explain just either one. Okay, so basically right now we talk about the bonus payment here. We have to talk about the approval by the board. Okay, the bonus payments should be determined in line with the specified criteria and threshold that has been approved by the board of directors. Okay, and another thing is, like I stated just now, right? Basically, this has to be confirmed in writing to the payroll department. So the HR director should provide payroll with a listing detailing the approved bonuses per employee. Okay, and then the payroll will update this in the system. So the payroll should be informed only to make payment of bonuses only when approval has been obtained. Okay, guys? So do you guys see the link? Right? So next, direct implication. The bonus were, okay, this one is like basically 2 points in one juga. On the bonus were input into the system, and a number of employees subsequently notified the payroll department of errors. Okay, so another issue is that the issues have only been investigated for employees who have complained that their bonus is inaccurate. So I think the issue here is that the bonuses were input without any additional review. So basically, this increases the risk of errors arising within your payroll. So whenever there is an error, basically this could lead to, same thing guys, this could lead to overpayment or underpayment of bonus. Okay? So the most important here is basically the direct implication. Alright? Okay. So whenever right now we are basically asking them to make sure that they are reviewing this bonus that has been input. The bonuses should be reviewed to agree they are in line with documentation provided by HR. The bonuses should also be input by one clerk and checked by a second payroll clerk for any input errors. Okay, maybe this is a control that we can recommend. Okay. Okay. So another thing, whenever there is a change to the system, okay, right now the bonus are input into the system. Okay, so whenever there is a change within the system, okay, this is basically where there will be a exception report. Okay, I want you guys to remember this exception report because it is something that is important when you guys are doing your internal control questions. Okay, this exception report will be usually automatically generated. Okay, it will be generated that will basically, oh my god, can you guys hear my cat? Kejap. Okay, I'm back. So basically, exception report ni will basically explain what are the changes being made. So this answer here, you have to talk about the exception report. However, this exception report cannot be a standalone point. Whenever you talk about an exception report, there has to be somebody who is reviewing this also. Okay, so right now let's talk about the answer. Any changes to the payroll should trigger an exception report, okay, by the system, okay, which a senior member of the payroll department should review and evidence by way of signature to confirm that changes made are appropriate. Okay, so this is basically an answer on how you can do exception report and review. Okay, because exception report and review is basically whenever there are any changes made to the system. Okay, you will basically have a exception report. All right. So this is something that is also repetitive that you guys can do when you guys are doing your test of control. Next is internet banking login details saved in central location, which is accessible to all payable ledger staff. Does this make sense? Dia macam everyone knows the bank login details. Do you guys share your bank login details to like people you guys are close to? I don't know about that, right? What is the direct implication here, guys? When everyone seems to know your bank login details, what is the risk right now? Okay. Another thing when you guys are talking about the direct implication, we can think about what is the risk. Okay. What is the risk of everyone knowing your internet bank login details? Okay. So there is a risk of fraud. Correct, Azim? Basically, there is a risk of fraud. Okay. That is right now, it is accessible to all payables ledger staff. So let's be very specific to the scenario. We are going to apply this. If let's say that I just talk about increased risk of fraud, this is a general implication. Okay, how can we make this a direct implication that relates to the scenario? Okay, because right now it is accessible to all payables ledger staff. Okay, basically there is a risk that payable staff could set up and make payment to fictitious payables. You guys see? Okay, so basically, this can result in a general implication of an increased risk of loss due to misappropriation of funds or because of fraud. Okay, do you guys see? This direct implication, it is very specific to this scenario. Okay, whenever we answer internal control question, we are more likely to explain more on the general implication because it is the first thought that comes to our mind. Okay, when you guys present in this way, you are kind of forcing yourself to think, okay, to think about what is the link here. Okay, so basically we have to tell them, okay, you cannot do this. Login details should not be documented and should only be known to authorized staff. Okay, so again, just now we were saying how there is a risk that payables ledger staff could be set up and make payment to. Okay, so right now, any changes to payables should be documented on an exception report. It's the same thing, guys. On an exception report, which is extracted from the internet banking system. Okay, again, whenever there's an exception report, we have to pair this up with a review. So this exception report should be reviewed by the finance director on a regular basis to confirm changes are expected. Okay? Because the FD is the one that is going to control whatever payments. They are the one who will be approving any payments. So that's why the FD is the one who will be reviewing this control here. Okay? So next is basically the reconciliation. The direct implication is that, okay, even though the sum is not significant, basically there may be significant errors that cancel each other out. Okay, so the direct implication here is the bank recon could contain significant errors, but a low overall amount of reconciling items, as there could be compensating errors which cancel each other out. Okay, so basically, if they are not doing this, if they are basically not investigating the reconciling items, then if the reconciling items are not reviewed, then basically why do we even do this bank recon? Macam tu lah, basically the bank recon will no longer be effective, or this reduces the effectiveness of the bank recon. Okay, so basically we just tell them you have to do this. Okay, right now reconciling items should be reviewed by the financial controller. Okay, right now, if you guys don't know, basically you can just say responsible official on a weekly basis, even if they are not significant. Okay, and then basically when they should review this, they should evidence their review by way of signature on the bank recon. Okay, so whenever we talk about a review, we have to make sure they are evidencing this review by way of signature. Okay, guys? So far so good. What do you guys feel after your first question? Are you guys still like it's a process lah, for sure. Okay, maybe we are still getting a hang of it. Okay, let's just take like a short break. Maybe we'll come back at 10 o'clock to attempt another question. Okay, guys? See you guys at